This morning we're here with Marsha Wilson and Terry Byrne, and we're continuing our history segment, and today we're in the St. Joe's Women's Centre to talk a little bit about the centre's past and its present as well. So I think what we'll do is we'll start first of all with Terry. Terry, how did the Women's Centre get started?
Well, Chris, it started back in 1984. At that time, we had an employee here called Delilah Carley who would see women walking on the streets during the day, coming from the homeless shelter and wandering around not having a place to go. They'd go to the shopping center to get warm, but the security guards at the shopping center basically ushered them out. So she approached Father Fred McGee, our pastor at the time, and said, we should be doing something for them. Fred said, well, we need space, and Delilah said, I'll give up my office in order to accommodate them. So they converted Delilah's office into a small kitchenette so that women could come in and have breakfast and a place to talk, a place to just relax and get warm. But the problem was back then is we had no money. So Father Fred, in his zest to help the homeless, and Delilah Carley with her social justice approach, and Edna Montague, who was known for her generosity, they would said, well, let's do it anyways. And we'll get volunteers and we'll get money somehow and we'll get the women to come to this center. And they did. And 3 months later, they moved this one-room kitchenette over to the Oblate Hall next door to the church. And there it stayed for 3 years. And the programs basically expanded somewhat at that time. In 1988, my brother Gary Byrne, who was director at the time, he had been approaching the city of Ottawa for funding, and he finally got them to recognize the Women's Centre as a social agency. And the city of Ottawa gave them money to fund the salaries of the women who were working at the Women's Centre. And to this day, the city of Ottawa continues to provide funding. In 1989, the Women's Centre moved back to the women where it is today. But I should note that we only had one staff member who ran the program back then, Angie McDonald, and she took care of it during the day. But we had volunteers at night who came in to help provide services to the women, and we had volunteers in the morning who came in to provide breakfast to the women. So now it's 1989, and I think at this point in time, our expert on the Women's Centre is Marsha Wilson.
Okay, so we're turning to you, Marsha, now. And you can go ahead and take your mask off as well if you'd like, if it's more comfortable. So, when and how did you get involved in the Women's Centre, Marsha?
Well, as Terry said, when the Oblate Hall was open for the women to come in, Gary asked me if I'd volunteer. So he brought me in after Mass one day to the room, and I said, oh my God, this is awful. But then when I left, I realized the importance for the volunteers to be there so the women would have some place to come and stay there till 10 o'clock at night and then head off to the shelter. So that's how I got involved in volunteering. The only thing is when you live close to some place and other volunteers call in sick or have work commitments, I often would come. So sometimes I would be here 2 or 3 times a week because in my heart I couldn't see the staff staying, and I didn't want the not to be open for the women.
So what kind of demographics would you be serving in the Women's Centre?
Presently, we see women from all walks of life. Women who have mental health issues, women who are new Canadians or refugees. We see a lot of Indigenous women, Caucasian. So over time, it's surprising because at one time we had a map up and we asked people to put what country they were from. And it was amazing, all the different countries that were representative. So, and like one woman said to me, coming to Canada was a blessing from what she had gone through in her country.
Now, over the years, how have the centre's programs evolved and changed?
Well, that's a great question, Chris, because we looked at, we used to have a little small Christmas party in the Women's Center, so, not too many, I think about 30 people. Then we moved to the Parish Hall, and all the staff did the cooking and volunteering to help execute that program. And then John Jarvis, who is the director of the Weston Hotel, they came on board, and for many years they just brought all the food. All we had to do was get the women downstairs and get a gift. Then later, a new director of the Weston would invite us to the Weston, and it was beautiful for the women. They'd all get dressed up, and it was a great time and celebration for everybody.
So would you say that there still is a significant demand for the programs offered by the Women's Center?
Certainly, especially when you're in this COVID crisis that we're going through. One of my staff, I was surprised when I say this, how many women want to color and do other things. So if we were in the center now, I could show you everything, but the women are already in, and I didn't want to upset their morning. So they like that. They're going to start yoga in a few weeks in the Parish Hall, and it will be chair yoga with the instructor on the stage and the women social distance. We used to take women to Wapu's farm for a day. We haven't gone there for quite a while, but we support a lot of families to go to Wapu's, even when the island was open, and at the farm. And it's a holiday for them outside of the city, and it's been very popular. They're starting to play card games, wearing gloves and that. Our shower and washing, our laundry facility has been open. So it's things like that that we slowly have been integrating into the center. And when we opened last year, we put a computer in the Women's Center, and I was surprised how many women are using it. And they have access to the phone. They can eat a meal inside, or they can take it to go. So it's their choice.
Do you have any success stories that you can share?
Yes, we have two of our women. One is a graduate of Algonquin College who received our bursary, and she has a job now. And the other lady, she has about one more year at Algonquin College. So both of them were the recipients of our bursary that we established in the name of Gary Byrne. Because Gary always believed a woman had the right to an education regardless of where she came from. So, and we've also supported students from Uville Center also. So we have a great partnership with them. Yeah. And we also, one of our other girls that got the bursary was a survivor of human trafficking. Yeah.
So as we near the end of this segment, can you maybe share with us an anecdote from the Women's Center's history?
Well, I've thought of that, and there was quite a few of them. So I think I'm going to go with the one that one morning I was at my desk and I received a phone call, and the lady asked me if I was Marsha Wilson, and I said yes. She said, I just want to tell you, I was walking down Rideau Street, and this young lady was selling airline ticket. And she said, I just went over just to see. And she said, I saw on the envelope, St. Joe's Women's Center, Marsha Wilson. And I said, yes, I did purchase an airline ticket. But I'll tell you, in those days, there was no internet. So I asked them to send it to my office. So I assume the mailman, for some reason, left some mail outside the door. She picked it up and thought she was selling. So as we were talking, I turned my head and I saw someone come in, and she had a white envelope in her hand. So I said to the lady, did this girl look, and I described her. She said, yes. I said, she just walked in. So I went over and said, good morning. I said, by any way, would you have my airline ticket? She said, yeah, I just put it right here for you. And that was the end of the story. I never said anything else.
So it ended well.
And it ended very well, yeah.
Thank you so much, Marsha, and thank you, Terry, as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.